I want you to put your hands together.
There goes to the neighborhood.
And welcome him to the stage. Big round of applause.
There goes to the neighborhood.
All right, we're live. We're rolling. Episode 52. We were just discussing I look like a redneck because I am. I'm sorry. These sleeves are gonna bug me. Look at that tan. Farmer's tan already.
Well, hell, you've been golfing,
Hold on.
been flower bedding, turned into a gardener.
Been doing I've been trying to pretend like I own a house and trying to take care of it. Anyway, got a question for you.
Go for it.
By the way, this is my co-host, James T-Rex Wright. I'm sorry. Oh, no, we went to the driving range and James called himself a T-Rex.
Felt like my arms were too short.
Anyway, we got a podcast here, episode 52, another thing that we always talk about off and on randomly, like everybody does, but we never did a podcast about it.
Right.
But this is like one of those things, like if you do a podcast, you kind of have to have one of these episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so question, did we really go to the moon? Did we got conspiracy nut over here, and I'm the non-conspiracy guy, but I think we probably agree on this. But anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure we do.
Yeah. We went to the damn moon. Now.
Oh, shit. T-Rex.
Honestly.
I'm sorry.
I guess I can see why people are skeptical.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's
I can
so-
see the reasoning.
Well, over 200,000 miles away, and we only did it for such a short window of time.
Yeah,
You know,
and
things like that.
And all the different little things about pictures and shadows and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, composite picture of the Earth and all that stuff. But and we'll talk about some of that. You got notes there, as usual.
Yeah.
Prepared. But, yeah, I mean, I think you have to start with the motive of any conspiracy, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. The motive, I think, is what most people claim. I'm sure there's other variations. Is that during the Cold War, and younger people won't understand this. They didn't live through this.
I know.
It was so different.
It really was.
I know everybody says, and they're gonna call us boomers if there's any young people that actually listen. But it was a different environment. That's all. Like you were raised. Not just at home, but like in school and everything with this American pride back then. It was before we became an evil empire
Right.
in the modern era or whatever. And because you had the Cold War going on, and, you know, Russia was Russia, and they were the enemy, and we were the good guys.
Yeah.
And, of course, everything's more nuanced than that, but that's how you thought.
Yeah, if we didn't do our job, they would take over the world.
That's right. And I guess that's actually true. But the point being, there was a space race. And it was an arms race and a space race, and it was a flex. It was a flex on Russia.
It was.
It was absolutely a flex. JFK, you can go watch the speech. I always love his speeches.
Oh yeah.
And like you said earlier, I agreed with what you're saying. I don't know if I said that, but you know, it's one of those things back in our days that really made you dream too, as well. Like it wasn't just sports.
Right.
You know, and stuff like that, which is, that was obviously still a huge part of the culture still.
Yeah, we wanted to kick their ass in the Olympics.
Yes,
we wanted
absolutely.
to kick their ass at everything, you know?
Absolutely. That was a big thing, just like you said, the Olympics, especially basketball. That was a big,
Yes.
that's a whole nother podcast. But yeah, it was one, so I guess the arguments against as far as, it was a hoax, it was all filmed by Francis Ford Coppola, or was a Spike Lee joint, or whatever the hell it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
That we just, we were going to try to do it or whatever, but we didn't have the technology, so we faked it in a lab, or a studio,
Right.
or a desert somewhere. There's different theories, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned Kennedy. You got Kennedy, kind of challenging, basically demanding, saying we're going to do this by the end of the decade, and we're up against the end of the decade. The Russians are they're getting close.
Yeah, let me make this clear, though, for anybody that may be younger. This was not Russia. This was the USSR.
It was.
This is a whole different game.
Russia was part of that.
Russia was just one little part of the USSR. So sorry. Communist versus, that was the whole political climate, right? The world political climate.
And but yeah, most people called them Russians.
Yeah. They're all Russian in the vernacular.
Right.
Sure. Yep, absolutely.
And so it was a tight race, and damn it, we were determined to win it, so we faked it. Like, I think that's, our president who said we were going to do it had been assassinated. Right. And, it was a feel-good thing. And so, yeah, people would, that's kind of a thing. I think people say, okay, yeah, it's really convenient. We did land there in 1969 before the decade ended, which is exactly what Kennedy wanted us to do. And I don't know.
In a very analog age.
Yeah.
When it start to get into the technology aspect of things.
And I can see why people would be skeptical. Like we've talked about, obviously, before we film these podcasts, we talk about these potential topics a lot. And so, like I said earlier, if we faked it and it's so important, like some other country would have tried to fake it by now. You know what I mean? Like just to say, well, we did too,
Yeah, because that's another thing that comes up a lot is, okay, why hadn't we went back, or why hadn't another country went back? And, technically they have, just not man-made, I guess, landed a person on the moon, as far as like China getting there with rovers and shit. But that's certainly another big point. Why not go back?
Right.
But
why not go back?
Actually planning to go back to be a launch pad of sorts for Mars and shit.
It really, it honestly does bother me that we haven't gone back. And I can sit down and lay out the scenarios and understand why, but it still bothers me.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to say downstairs, actually. That was 11, correct? 11 landed.
Yes.
So 13 was the disaster.
Yes.
Where they were going to.
Mm-hmm.
So that was technically the trip that they would have been back at least a second time, if not.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 were missions to go. All of them landed on the moon except 13.
Okay.
So from July of 69 to December 72, 6 of the 7 did land on the moon. And while I was researching, I did find this cool factoid. The first living beings from Earth to make it into lunar orbit were tortoises.
Right.
The Soviets in 68.
I thought they said a monkey or a dog. Was that low altitude? Earth orbit. Okay.
That was Earth orbit.
Earth orbit.
They sent 2 tortoises, some fruit fly eggs, and some plants, and they orbited the moon, came back, landed in the Indian Ocean. And they said that the tortoises, the only thing that seemed to bother them was starvation. That they seemed fine otherwise.
Right? Yeah. How they eating? Yeah,
So
I don't know how they were strapped in.
Wonder why they would pick tortoises to begin with. That's just so random to me.
Well, I guess you had a mammal. And then you had a fly insect thing, right? And then some plant. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But why that of all? You'd think it'd be a monkey.
You would.
But yeah, okay. The dog thing. So that was low Earth orbit, I guess.
Yeah.
So I remember that being a story.
And so I was born. Hey, I'm actually gonna have a birthday coming up soon.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, less than 2 weeks.
29.
I'll be 48. And I was born in May of 73. The last time anybody stood on the moon was December of 72. So in my whole entire lifetime, no one has stood on the moon.
But that technically,
except Zod and his cronies.
No, and Transformers.
Oh,
the Transformers.
I forgot about
Dark
Transformers.
Side of the Moon. We just hadn't been there till that movie came out, and then we discovered that the Transformers had landed there, crashed there.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened. But as far as I think that's one of the arguments I think right there for why didn't we go back is technically we did. We just did it several times in a row, and then it got to the point where it's we're not gaining as much as it costs.
Right.
So we actually did go.
We
more
played
than
golf,
once.
rode dune buggies.
Yeah, you did.
We did everything.
You did everything you could do and scan things, and left a mirror on there that we could point a laser at now and stuff like that.
My beef with it is this: is all this hype about going to Mars, and I just feel like the moon would be the natural next progressive step to like I mentioned, I think of the movie The Martian. So if you're going to go put this outpost on Mars and start, horticulture in a greenhouse and all this stuff, practice on the moon.
Right.
Like, I don't understand why they would not do that. Like proof of concept kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that really annoys me.
Base / bubble or whatever.
Somebody's been up there for 10 years living. Yeah. We can do this.
Yeah.
And now everything's just a theory and then math.
And I get it to a degree. Like, that's a lot of fucking money. A lot of money to build this little whatever you want to call it, a colony or
colony,
a base or launch facility, and you got to haul all that shit up from here, which is the problem is weight, right? Which
haul all that shit up. You sound like Jan Clampett's going to be driving up on rocking chair strapped to the top.
Why not?
You got to haul all that shit up there.
Well, you got to haul the heavy shit up there.
You do.
Then you got to assemble it in the non-oxygenated environment. You know what I'm saying?
So
I mean, I think that would be, but now it looks like they're planning to. We saw the little NASA.
Yeah, that excited me. Yeah.
So by 2024, they're planning on building, and then China's also trying this as well, which is another race that's going on.
It'll be a trailer park on the moon.
Hey, that's who you test it with is rednecks.
You dang right.
I'm telling you, they'll see what's going on. But yeah, no. So apparently that's the plan now. Is it being a kind of a stepping stone? We'll see how far they go with it.
Yeah,
because the Mars thing, man. I've said that before. We mentioned that. Nobody, they're not going to make it to Mars. 7 years in a tube.
I don't get that.
I mean, I get the idea, but actually doing it. Yeah.
No, I know, and that's what I'm saying is like that's such an obvious testing grounds is right here.
I agree.
7 years to get somewhere just blows my damn
But
mind.
I guess in a way it was also it also did serve that or has to some extent already, because we kind of designed things based off the moon rovers and stuff.
Yeah,
that we've sent to Mars as well.
And the space station, we've done a lot of tests and left people up there for years, and years or whatever. And so I do get that they are doing some tests up there, but I don't know, man. As far as building a little campground,
trailer park,
and proving that somebody can live,
they'll have to do the. I'm assuming they'll have to do some kind of treaty like the Antarctica Treaty up there.
Yeah.
One nation can't claim it or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm sure that'll be a thing.
And it was cool. We learned that basically they're going to take the ice up there and, take the hydrogen, melt it into water, and then remove the hydrogen and the oxygen, use the oxygen to breathe, the hydrogen for rocket fuel, and we'll start doing deep space missions right from there, which is kind of cool to me. So...
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, even though technically we have been back several times, it's just not been used to do that kind of stuff. They could have been doing for the last 50 fucking years.
Really could.
Like adding little, starting a little. Maybe it starts with a tent, and then you add on like the space station. They add pieces. And
that's
it grows,
right.
And now they're already decomming that in a couple of years or something.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's what it sounds like.
So, I guess. That's the theory is that. The reason is just to flex on Russia and say we did it, and they can't really ever not prove it, I guess. But then you have all the video and photo evidence and soundstage-esque looking stuff, and then lost tapes of data and video. But because I think that was the confusing part for me was the transmission was live. Right, I mean everybody in the world was watching it, and then like you said, we watched a replay of that in the 40th anniversary or whatever it was.
Yeah, 50, I think. Yep,
where they replayed that. So the original transmissions were a certain format, and then they had to basically record the screen, in a kind of an analog style way, like a horrible like an analog screen capture.
Yeah.
You know, point a camera at a screen because that format had to be this format for TV.
Yeah.
And then as satellites started getting put up in there for GPS and all that kind of stuff later, then they erased them.
Yeah, recorded right over
And that,
the actual.
that fuels that fire for, they erased the tapes. Well,
Yeah, how convenient that you erased the tape.
We just don't have the originals, is I guess the idea.
Yeah, and
Kind of like putting a bait into a VHS.
And I mean, let's be honest. I think based on the footage that we've seen, okay, that could have been faked.
Sure.
Like they could have made something that looked exactly like what we saw. I think it almost comes down to the sheer numbers. What did we hear? 230,000 people were working on that.
I think it was 435,000.
435,000
500,000 people
in 1966 at the peak of this were working on this stuff. I mean, and you just there's nowhere in the history of time that many people kept a secret.
No way. And that's always my biggest argument. A big conspiracy theories is people cannot keep secrets.
Right.
We all know this from personal experience. And 400, 500,000 people, and then another kind of to add to that is with all these big kind of conspiracy theories, whether it's flat Earth or fake moon landing, whatever, is all this really happened. We saw rockets fly up. People saw that. It happened. And so I guess they'll say, well, they just shot off into the ocean somewhere. But you have all these people and all these billions and billions of dollars being spent, all these real jobs, and they're compartmentalized to some degree, so they don't really know, like the people working on shit and welding stuff, they don't really know what they're actually going to do.
No, they can say, sure, I did build that rocket.
Yeah, so there's some aspect there, but somebody is going to expose it out of 500,000 people.
Yeah,
too many people
if it was faked, I mean, let's think about this. You're turning astronauts into Milli Vanilli.
Yes, exactly.
And that is so weird. A bunch of damn posers.
Yeah, exactly.
They come down, have ticker tape parades, and they're in their mind knowing that it's bullshit.
And you have all these like real jobs, real people doing all these things, and it's all for show, and just to say we beat you, Russia,
right,
or USSR at the time.
That's so crazy. And also, like, now, supposedly, you or I could buy, cameras that are so good that we could actually zoom in and see the lunar module still sitting there where they said they left it.
Yeah, and we can point lasers to the mirror thingy.
Yeah.
You can look that up on YouTube as far as how all those experiments they still do.
So, I mean, it's so far-fetched that we went, but I do believe it. I mean, I do believe that we went. However, like I said, I will preface that with saying what we saw back could have been faked.
Oh, yeah.
They literally could have shot a rocket go over the horizon or whatever, into orbit, whatever they wanted to do, and then later go say, okay, the capsule's coming down, and here pops people out, and the Navy rescues them, and all that could have been faked.
Yep.
I
mean, just
really
like
could have been.
Worlds. War of the Worlds happened on the radio.
That's true.
So you did have something.
That's
like that
actually
happen.
A good point.
So there's no doubt that there's beyond what you saw, there can be questions, and legitimately so. But as far as all the little things, as far as the photography and all that stuff, simple science actually explains most of that we've seen.
Yeah,
we saw a great video a couple years ago. NVIDIA, the people who make your graphics cards, used this technology of theirs, essentially ray tracing or whatever it was, to explain why the famous picture of Armstrong on the ladder, where he's in the shadow of the lander,
right?
And people were questioning, how can you see him? You got one light.
Fair
source.
question, because it's black as shit.
It's the shadow's really dark.
Yeah,
the sun over there somewhere, and that's the only light source. So people said, well, you can see him, so it's got to be a filler light like you'd have on a sound stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then what they didn't take into account as far as the actual science is the reflective surface of the moon being made of what it is, and it's reflecting light back. So we've seen this on Mythbusters, how they explained it. They recreated it perfectly. But this software actually did it as well perfectly, and it shows exactly what it should be.
Right.
You can see him from behind.
And so I think like what would be awesome is if a credible source would kind of, like I said, you know how sometimes Neil deGrasse Tyson is kind of a prick, talks down to people.
Yeah, man, he does. I mean, I used to love
that
him.
turns people off, you know.
Yeah.
If you could get somebody who wouldn't do that, because everybody's not an astrophysicist. If they would just go, okay, here's the checklist of things that I see. I'm going to cover these 3 things that I'm well versed in. Okay, I have this photo engineer here. He's going to explain this. We're going to go down through here and discuss this. Not saying it would some people are just going to not believe, you know, for whatever reason. But instead of being a jerk about it, kind of just really lay it out there and go, okay, I see what you mean. Exactly. Let me show you why. Because it's fair point. You know, you got there. This looks dark as hell. You shouldn't be able to see him, but this is how it works. Like you said, Mythbusters did a great thing, but not everybody probably saw the episode or whatever.
And then, of course, it's kind of like the flat Earth stuff. If you do show that, then you're just shields for the government. You're working for
that. That does happen.
That does happen.
There's it's just most of the things that you see, they take away the fact that that's a fair point. I see why you think that.
It's automatically like you're alone.
Yeah.
It's like we talked about the flat Earth stuff. Like it's not all like idiots.
No.
There's smart people that believe the Earth is flat because there's some points that, you know, make you go,
Yeah, but
and you have to acknowledge that. And like if you want to convince somebody of the truth.
Yes. And then some people, like I said, when we said we were going to be talking about this, I said, you know, we could go on there and say we believe that we landed on the moon, or we could go on there and say we don't believe it.
Yep.
Either way, there's going to be somebody say you're wrong and this is why.
And there's already going to be comments before we even got into anything when we said we think, you know, you said I think we went before we even discussed it.
Yes,
there's already going to be. I mean, this is going to be on the new channel, so we don't know how many views we'll get. But the point being that there will already be comments that, you know, y'all are shields, you know, here, you know,
right.
Look it up. You know, there's always just going to be that.
The Van Allen belt or whatever.
Yeah, you can't survive the radiation.
Yeah.
Although you are in an actual tin can that's actually shield you from that. And, you know, there's going to be all those type of things regardless.
There will be.
Same as flat Earth.
And I guess from my own point, the people who could, you know, who have the credentials to prove it don't want to take the energy. It's like, it's so annoying to them by this time, you know. I get it. I do. But I was telling you, if we went back now, we would have some amazing footage, man.
I'm telling you.
With our technology now, I would love to watch them touch down on the surface in high definition, and it would just be, it'd be awesome, man.
Yeah, because that's the crazy. That's part, I guess, it adds to the conspiracy stuff. Is you think about the computing power alone you have in the palm of your hand, and that's the same or more than they used than in the entire moon missions.
That is
as far
really
as the
ridiculous
technology. We just watched the thing with Armstrong explaining as he piloted it down or whatever. They had this little readout with 3 numbers, and that was it.
Yeah.
And then there was like an indicator light that flashed up, and when that came up, that disappeared.
Yeah. All their other readouts disappeared because that thing came on.
So they're flying this thing manually after they get, 500 feet, I think.
That had to be so scary.
But that was that's another thing right there is, okay, a big point, I guess, is the lander didn't make a crater, as it, you know, used rocket fuel or boosters to slowly descend, and that's explained pretty easily too. I love the little thing you call because we could just listen to that, and then you called it in that picture the 3 things that stick out on the feet.
Yes,
the first things to actually touch as they're going this way.
Yes,
and that it lights up an indicator in there that he was talking about.
Right.
Cool. And then they bend.
Yeah, they're made to bend, so then the round feet can land. They're hanging off the bottom of the round feet.
It's like antennas.
And as they're hovering over the surface, it hits first, and when it touches, it lets them know, okay, we're hit, and here we go. And
10
then it
seconds.
bends, and you can see a great picture of it bent out from under it like that.
Yeah,
so
it's under
cool.
the foot. So, but anyway, going back to the crater, and you realize that they're 1/6 the gravity. They said that again, mathematics, that each foot has about the pressure of a car tire. So I mean, you're not going to make some giant crater, and it's not going to hit hard, regardless. So you don't need that much force.
And the one thing that I did say that I agreed with when we were watching that thing, and I'm just saying I agree with the idea of it. I'm not saying I think that it did happen one way or the other. But I do believe, since it was like the most spectacular thing in human history when it happened, that maybe, just maybe, the footage wasn't as exciting, and they made it sexier by editing it a little bit after they got it back. Some of the pictures and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it did happen. I'm just saying when people bring that up, I could say, okay, I get if they did edit pictures, why they might have done it.
Yeah, because that's another thing with Flat Earth, too, is the composite pictures they used to have to do before we could, because those are from low orbit satellites. You have to kind of stitch them together. And it's a fairly common thing, but when NASA does it, somehow it's shady, and I mean, I get it.
Yeah, it does. I get it. Anything that's not, black and white is kind of. And if there's any room for gray area, they jump all over.
Oh yeah, they're gonna. There's always that. All it takes is a shred of doubt, and that's it. And then you don't have to really have an explanation. It's just got to be a shred of doubt. It's not like being in a courtroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Reasonable doubt. That's it.
And I guess, let's say that they did sexy up some images. I guess what a quote-unquote conspiracy theorist would say is, why didn't they just tell us they did that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Show us the raw one, and then show us the sexy one, and we'll at least we'll know. So it doesn't doubt doesn't creep in.
Yeah, and then that's the thing with the Flat Earth stuff. They did come out and say that, but it was after the fact, so that doesn't help the case.
Exactly.
So yeah, and then, but the original broadcast though was horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, because it had to be apparently with the formatting or whatever. So, I mean, you can't really say they sexied that up.
And as a matter of fact, we were watching the thing, and they were talking about who took the picture of Neil coming down the ladder.
Yeah.
And they said there was a camera down there. And I said right away, I was like, well, it wasn't wireless. Back then,
exactly.
There wasn't even a wireless remote control.
No.
Remote controls had a wire to them, to a VCR when I was a kid. And sure as hell, they described everything. There was a wire. Buzz was in the thing, controlling the camera.
They dropped down this little thing. The camera was
Everything's explainable.
It's
I think if people would just maybe take time.
That's right. He hits a switch. It folds down. It starts recording.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep.
And there you go. You got the shot of the ladder. But that's what I mean. Everything's nuanced. It goes with every argument and every whatever. If you're talking about politics, this is the problem today. Is there's no nuance in anything. They just say, well. And if you're just kind of listening, half-ass paying attention, not really thinking about it, you hear, well, who took the pictures? Oh, shit, good point.
Yeah.
But if you just think about it.
Just stop.
And stop and actually listen to the answer. Well, it had this cargo thing that came down, and so it folds down. There's a camera on it. It's wired up. He pulls this thing at the top of the little ramp, or the entry, I guess, the doorway, and it starts recording because they wanted to film it. They had all these cameras on their chest and on everywhere because obviously this is a monumental thing. Think about it. I mean, a person walking on another celestial body is pretty damn big. You know what I'm saying? In the course of human history.
And these contracting companies that built the cameras and stuff, I mean, there's no better advertisement for your company.
Oh, God.
If you say our camera was the one that took the pictures on the freaking moon, your company stock rises like crazy. So, I mean, they're going to pull out all the bells and whistles on that stuff. There's going to be stuff that's never happened in history happening up there on the moon with a camera. And then we benefit later because it worked so well. Right. That trickles down into our technology on the street level.
Which it has, and that's kind of one of the things they fail to mention as far as some of the arguments against it's been a hoax. SSD, solid state drives.
Yeah, man.
Came from the moon technology, or as far as all the research and them getting up there and then coming back safely, is we got some technology from that we enjoy today. There was a couple other things.
Yes, like water purification systems.
Water purification with silver, as opposed to chlorine,
and MRIs.
MRIs.
Yeah,
the scanning technology was transferred over to CAT scans and MRIs.
It's really cool, man.
So there's stuff there that.
Tennis shoes.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Yeah,
sneakers.
Yeah,
like the technology in running shoes, and hell, Air. Maybe it's Nike Air, but whatever they
came from moon boots.
Came from moon boots.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It really is.
So I guess it's just probably one little aspect that's overlooked a lot about what do we gain from it, besides the experience and then their internal technology that we don't normally see.
And I don't know. We talked a lot about how things have changed a little bit now. We grew up in an age where astronauts were absolutely heroes, and rock stars,
absolutely.
And
we talked about Challenger a little bit before, and how big a deal that was. Obviously,
these people had balls of steel. And
you couldn't imagine.
I can't imagine. I really can't. They were all so smart. I mean, they're up there doing calculations and stuff. Sometimes with grease pens and paper or whatever, laminate paper, and doing crazy stuff up there while thousands of miles away. And I don't know, man. To strap yourself on top of that rocket to begin with, is insane.
It is insane. Just think about it. I mean, then we've seen several instances of that not working out. I mean, whether it's the Challenger or the other space shuttle, Discovery, I believe.
Yeah.
Over Texas later.
Yeah.
And other rockets, period, and probably countless ones in Russia and China.
Right.
I know we don't hear. I've heard of some over the years, but we don't know what's really going on.
No, you really don't.
So anybody that's going to get in a fucking, hell, we did the podcast on, what's his name? What's his nickname? The dude that did his own rocket.
Oh yeah, Steam dude.
Yeah, the steam rockets where once you get in, there's no turning back. Once you pull the thing to release the steam, and he's dead.
Yeah, bless his heart. And he was a flat earther.
He
wanted to prove it, and so I respect him for that. He went about trying to prove it. Damn it, one way or the other. He put his
money where his mouth was, and went up 2 or 3 times.
Rocket Man. I forgot about him.
The documentary still on probably Netflix or maybe it was Amazon. I think it was Netflix. But Rocket Man perished last year before. Not too long ago, in his third attempt or third time trying to go high enough, because he never got high enough.
Right.
And the parachute came out on his way up. Oops. And
so that was like Evel Knievel.
He was. Mm-hmm. He was crazy, crazy funny, but man, you got to have some cojones to strap into something like that.
But I just feel like times have changed a lot as far as how youth looks up to people like that. Yeah. And I could be wrong, but we literally played outside, thinking astronauts, Buck Rogers, things like that.
Yeah. And that's the importance, I think, of sci-fi and fantasy too, is Star Trek sci-fi stuff. That's where all that came from. It was a real life thing, and I told you this a million times. I'll mention it again here. Is I was a kid, I watched Space Camp every day of my life until the tape broke.
Right.
I was going to be an astronaut this is when I was really young, obviously. And I was going to go to Texas to space camp like they did in the movie. And then the whole movie premise was they are at space camp and they accidentally launch. And all of a sudden these kids have to actually control a shuttle.
Right.
And bring it back. And, they're all fighting and bickering and whatever, but they have to become a team. And it's a great fucking movie. And not to mention I was in love with the chick at the time, my first crush is like Princess Leia.
I love it.
But, I watched it every day, and you looked up to that shit. And today, I'm not saying there's no real role models. There are, but it's mostly musicians and, I guess, athletes still. That's always been a thing, for sure.
Always.
Depending on where you grow up and stuff. But that was another facet, was this international thing with going to space and the moon and beyond or whatever. And it was also a sense of pride, national pride, which is somehow frowned upon today.
Yeah.
It was, about America leading the world in technology. And like you said, it's trickled down to help, third world countries, for example, with the water purification. This one little example.
Right.
But for some reason, that's bad today, to be proud of your country.
Yeah, I guess because the whole Space Force thing got turned into a joke.
It did.
And
sure, it sounds funny.
it does sound funny.
It does.
It really
but
does.
That's all. That was the same.
When we were kids, it wouldn't have been funny.
No, because that was what JFK was doing.
Yeah.
JFK was doing the same thing without the name. That's exactly what it was going to be. And then the 2024 was the date of them doing this moon stuff. So this has already been planned. So, I mean, because it sounds funny, but like we said downstairs, I bet the first time they created the Air Force.
Right.
Like, Air Force? What? I mean, that probably sounded dumb too.
You dang right it did.
Because we already have pilots in the Navy and Marines. Well, we need an Air Force.
It's so crazy.
But if you think about what the plan is for Mars and beyond in deep space exploration, it's kind of cool.
And with our dependence on satellites, somebody's got to protect that stuff up there.
Absolutely. That's the big thing.
You could shut us all down. Our whole country could come to a
everything.
screeching halt if those satellites get messed with.
And guess what China's doing?
So we need a Space Force, man.
That's absolutely correct. And so I don't know what's really, when you sit down and think about it and go beyond the optics of it because you don't like a political party or whatever, then it's like, oh, well, yeah. Because China's, there's cyber attacks every day, and once they get a hold of those,
Oh, yeah.
we'd be fucked.
Totally.
And so, of course, we don't know what we actually have going on either. Like, remember the 80s and Star Wars?
Yes.
I mean,
Ronald Reagan. Heck
absolutely.
yeah.
Ronaldo Magnus.
And, hey, every day of my life as a civilian and at work, I use those satellites every single day. I couldn't imagine. And I'm such a pissant.
Yeah.
There are people who depend on them like for such crucial and critical things, man. We can't have anybody messing up there.
Namely the military. I mean, missile guide, they're all guided by this stuff.
Absolutely are.
And precision, so you can get the right people if you need to do something like that. But a lot of things can be fucked up. So I get it, but it's not any. I didn't see it any different as JFK. Is that error of kind of reinvigorating that sense of pride and something to kind of kids dream about, and then the country be proud of, and then it affects the whole world. It helps everyone. So
right. So yeah, Space Force is kind of just like a continuation of if you picture like years ago, centuries ago, we had to dominate the land. And then somebody went out into the sea and wasn't just for exploration. There was a military purpose to it.
Yep.
Had to dominate the seas and then the skies. And then that's just the next progression to me,
it makes sense to me.
A presence at least,
Yeah. And there's just a reality of today's technology that we all enjoy with the internet and, the devices in our hands. Is that you have to have these things floating around the earth to protect.
Yeah.
For it all to work.
And as far as the moon goes, I do wish, I've often thought, and I'm definitely not alone here, but because other people have mentioned them and mentioned this concept in conversation, is it'd be a cool idea to erect some kind of telescope or something, on the moon to take pictures of deep space and
Yeah, like they got the Hubble and out in space.
In space.
Yeah.
This could be something that when it's time for an upgrade, when technology allows for an upgrade, somebody could go up there and change the lens or whatever they're going to do.
It'd probably be safer once they get it established and like I said, whether it's a bubble or just a facility almost like an ISS on the ground.
Yeah.
Something like
It'd
that.
be really cool.
Don't have to be a, sci-fi bubble, but you know what I mean. The idea. Yeah, it makes sense to me. Is just the next stepping stone. I was going to mention too, I saw a meme the other day, basically comparing today's culture with, it used the picture of, is it Kylie Jenner? You know, the real hot young chick, or the Kardashians, I believe. A picture of her in like a swimsuit or whatever, and beside her was this 19-year-old girl in an astronaut suit. And she is the youngest girl to have completed all the training and testing to be an astronaut. She's 19 years old. She might be like 20 now. And she's supposed to be the first girl on Mars.
Okay.
That she's planning to go and live on Mars. That's the plan.
Okay.
And she is not looked, you know, nobody knows her name.
Right.
But they all know who Kylie Jenner is, and that's what people would rather look at. And I'm not trying to bash anybody that looks at hot girls on the internet. I'm just saying.
It's just food for thought.
It's just the idea, like we were saying. It was a different world when we were kids,
Mm-hmm.
and you thought differently about shit like this.
Yeah.
And there was this sense of, like I said, this national pride that somehow is, I don't know, bad today for some reason. It doesn't mean you hate other countries or something. It benefits everybody, and there's a reason he said one small step for men, one giant leap for mankind. It wasn't one small step for Americans.
No, that's right.
I mean, that's the point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't know. I think maybe national pride still exists. It's just my national pride is better than your national pride, or
Yeah,
your national pride is totally wrong. I don't know, but
yeah.
while we were looking up some things on this, we came across this Donald Pettit, an astronaut.
Yeah.
And
he's got a lot of videos where he's like in the ISS explaining how shit works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And evidently he was doing an interview, and somebody said something about, would you go to Mars? And he said in a nanosecond or something, he said, I'd go to the moon too, but we just don't have that technology anymore.
Yeah, and they took that in a different way.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
took it like, oh.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And so now that was the talking point of the people who do believe it's faked is, when have you ever seen technology regress? That's not what he said. Technology is a loose term, can be applied many ways.
Yeah.
He literally meant we destroyed it.
And evidently during the space race, NASA's budget was like 4 point something percent
Of the national
of our whole what am I trying to say? Budget. And now it's like 0.05% or something like that.
Yep.
So
even that's converted to today's dollars.
yeah, so it's like, it's just not. There's so many more things that the people who determine where money goes, they're focusing on other than.
Yeah, they turned NASA into more about climate change versus space and things like that.
So you can see how, like the Cold War it bred technology and these leaps and bounds in technology because of that race. And when you take out the competitive aspect of that, not saying right or wrong, you know what I mean? I'm just saying
it's just a natural byproduct.
It is.
It absolutely is.
It is. So those kind of things go away, and then also, I think for so long we kind of we figured things out so well that America got comfortable, and the focus goes away from things like that. Then it becomes other things. You're like, okay, we gotta clean up our water. Just focus on things like that. So I get it.
Not that those
I totally
aren't important.
get it. Yeah,
it's just the focus shifted.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think it's important. Just kind of reiterate this is we talked about this a little bit when we were back in old live streams, and we would mention sports and stuff. And so we had a few people go, I'm not here for your sports, or whatever, because we were talking Game of Thrones at the time or whatever.
Yeah.
Even if it was another podcast. But things like that are important because and this is just a bigger version to me because we experienced it as kids. I mean, we all in school watched the space shuttle launches. It was a big deal. They rolled the TVs in on the carts, the space races in the 60s and 70s, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. It's a big deal because it brings people together regardless of your, political affiliation or backgrounds, ethnicity, all that bullshit that don't matter. It's one goal. And I think I don't see how that's not a good thing.
I know.
And so it was just a different climate. I mean, you're talking to two old men who in school did drills for nuclear war.
Yeah.
And people don't know this kind of stuff.
That's right.
You know, that's what you had to do. You know, once a week, just like a tornado drill.
You did.
You had a nuclear bomb drill too. And so it's perspective.
Yeah.
It's perspective. Like we were talking about, people that don't have kids don't have a certain perspective on things.
Yeah, and that's a reason why a movie like a Red Dawn worked.
Yes.
Is because we had those drills, and we always thought that at any time the Soviets could do something.
I mean, think about Armageddon, the movie. Mm-hmm. You know, it was an American crew, and was it Bruce Willis, right, and his daughter? No. Was it Bruce Willis? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bruce Willis.
Then, there were two movies that were similar that.
It was Bruce Willis, but it was Aerosmith. It was Steven Tyler's daughter.
Right.
And the whole point of that was it saved the world. It wasn't like America.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They destroyed an asteroid that saved the planet.
Right.
So everybody benefits from this shit. You know what I mean?
Do.
But there is, there's some bragging rights, sure.
And if that movie was made in another country, their country would be the one blowing up the asteroid to save the world.
And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine. So this all kind of circles back to very similar topics in the past. Regardless, there's this undertone of there's just something missing these days, and that's like a national goal.
Yeah, I think it's all these things that take our, time up, and like TikTok, and they like
absolutely
they're just time wasters.
And then, but
if you're wasting your energy, focusing on something else, then you don't have time to even think about pride. It's like, oh, here's another video that I could argue about. I can either laugh or bitch about.
Yeah, it's all focused on what I can destroy the other side with, as opposed to let's focus on some things we have in common.
That would be a beautiful thing.
It would be, and that's the way it used to be. And so I know it gets old here.
It's always been
back in my day. I get it, boomer.
It's always been arguments and shit. Don't get me wrong.
It's true.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It just is that type of stuff. So it's pretty important stuff. And so I always am supportive of any administration who, wants to put more money towards that type of thing, because I think it's important. Not just to say we did it first or whatever, just in the scheme of things. Because like you said, it's the next logical step. I mean, if we want to answer these big questions of science and stuff, you got to do it.
I will say, there was some of that with these companies racing to get a vaccine out.
Yeah, there you go.
There was a feel there. It's
example.
Like, wow, we look how fast we did this.
These
look how
big evil
fast
pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah,
all three came out with a record vaccine.
Record time, yeah.
And yes, it's still experimental and technically not approved in trial. But the point being that's what competition does. It's a good thing.
When the shit hits the fan, people roll up their sleeves.
That's right.
And
we saw that in 9/11 and many other instances of that, and that's just the bottom line. So that's
still in us.
Yeah, it's the small thing that gives me hope about this ultra hyper partisan political climate of everything, where there's no nuance and you can't have a conversation. I mean, a lot of people will still, I guess, but everything you see is sensationalized on CNN, for example, and that's just what it don't match reality most of the time.
Right.
But it gives you this doom feel.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, man. My life has gotten a lot happier since I just stopped watching all news.
Same here. Don't watch shit.
I don't give a shit about it anymore.
I'll read articles occasionally from other countries, and they'll be a lot more accurate.
Yeah.
And that's because I'm telling you, it's a doom machine. It's all it is. Doom and gloom, and there's no positivity.
This is why people don't like you, or this is why you shouldn't like people. That's all it is.
That's all it is.
And so I'm cool with it. Just you do your thing, and I'm not going to pay attention.
I never thought I would be happy canceling all TV.
Right.
I mean, period. But I have, and I'm so grateful that I don't partake in the bullshit anymore.
I think,
and believe me, it's not that we talk about this. There's some things we'd like to talk about, but you can't. And these long form podcasts would be good for some of that, but we wouldn't have feedback without like in the conversation. And things are nuanced.
Yeah,
and people just don't. it's everything's black and white these days, and there's no gray area.
Right. There are things that are happening that I would like to touch on to try to like bring light to something to not fan the flames, to just say, you know, this is my experience, this is my thoughts, and this is, you know, we need to chill out or whatever. But you can't touch it with a 10-foot pole, so just forget about it.
Just on the other team,
right?
You know,
and I don't want to be on a team. You know, I want to just
that's right.
I just want to chill and, you know, be happy. Because there's enough misery to go around without,
absolutely,
you know, starting
without
a war
unnecessary wars with some
friends and family
defined box and friends and family, and you know, like I said, all these arbitrary boxes we're all put in. These are the type of things, whether it's going to the moon or Mars is the next goal, or you know, the Challenger, whatever, the space shuttle programs, all those national things that, and we talked about sporting events, big, you know, sports and teams. All that is bigger, is important for that reason.
Yeah,
I mean, it's where, you know, you don't give a shit about the person
people
beside
from
you.
all teams and all ethnicities and both, you know.
Yeah, you don't care. You're all fans
come
of the
together
same thing.
and focus on, okay, we got to do this, whatever that goal is. Get somebody to the moon and bring them back safely, or
get
whatever.
Somebody to the end zone.
Yeah,
it's the same principle.
You know, it's everybody working together. And to achieve.
Well, damn, we
goals.
turned a conspiracy podcast into we're trying to be positive.
Exactly.
Because we're just good people.
I'm telling you, man. Turn off the damn news and
I'm telling you, yeah.
Your brain starts working
See how
again.
it matches the real world. You know what I mean? We've said that a million times. You know, if you watch that shit all day and think, well, it must be happening in the county over, or maybe another state because it's not here. But no, come on. Man.
Yeah. Like, I honestly, you know, I stopped, like I've just started dabbling my toes back into Facebook a little bit. I totally shut down Facebook for a while.
I did
and
same.
Because I got to where I was like, I was watching what people were saying and I was like, you know, this person's an asshole. And it ended up, they were so consumed. I started going, you know, they're sick. I mean, like they're going to have a damn nervous breakdown. They're so consumed with this argument and this arguing, man. I felt for them instead of being pissed at them.
Yeah.
Because it's not a way to live, man.
No.
Wake up every day trying to figure out what you're going to bitch about.
Exactly.
Or make fun of somebody about. However you want to look at it, it's a sickness.
It is.
And I was never that way in my life. Like, social media made me start getting...
It is.
Turning into an asshole. I've always been
toxic.
happy, and man, I became so much more happy when I disconnected from that bullshit. Because and I'm not again not bringing up another conspiracy theory, but I kind of believe because things that are heated and arguments generate more clicks and more, you know, attention to their platform that. They're never going to stop it.
No,
they're never going to like not encourage dispute because it's not like just calm discourse. It's literal verbal warfare on their platform, and they love it because these people can't wait to wake up and get back on there and do it again.
Exactly. Find
something. I don't. That's not me. So screw it. I backed off. So I love thinking about things like this that like you said give you hope or touch on a time in your life when you had hope anyway.
Right, and maybe at least through a shitty little podcast give somebody out there an idea of okay, well there are bigger things than Democrats versus Republicans
right
in the world.
There really are.
I mean, the bigger things that we all actually still want and agree on and shoot for and whatever. Anyway, we're getting sappy, but you get the idea.
You do.
But this is where we like to go when these type of things. We start with something, ends up being some psychological. I don't know. It's just
it kind of sucks that's where your mind goes. Is like as you're talking about, we raced the Soviets to the moon and we won, and that's awesome. somebody's going to think you saying that's awesome is somehow bad. So your mind starts going to all this stuff. Whereas before social media and shit came around, I would have never even thought somebody would have thought it was bad to say, to be excited that we beat the Soviets to the moon.
Exactly. It's like we talked about before. It's like, do we have to do disclaimers or something?
It's like xenophobia or something.
Yeah, you're always thinking like, because it would be today.
Yeah,
absolutely. You're always thinking, well, shit, can I say that, or is somebody going to cancel me, or do I need do I need a disclaimer before every sentence? So it's getting ridiculous to the point where you just want to shut down completely and just get the fuck off everything.
Yep.
So
if this podcast strikes something in you that makes you pissed off, you can disconnect from it. That's the way I feel about it, because I'm tired of damn tiptoeing.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I'm just want to be happy and not. And when I say something that makes me happy, if you take it as I'm a freaking joke, I'm a jerk or something, that's on you. That ain't on me.
That's right.
I'm all about everybody being happy.
That's a you problem.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You want to point out a character flaw in me because I mentioned something that I like?
Right. Exactly. But anyway, bottom line is we went to the moon, and that's just our opinions.
We did go.
I think it's backed up by fact and science. So, there's going to be people that disagree, and that's fine. But let us know why. Or there's something.
Then we do a part 2 and say, hey, a good point was brought up.
Sure. We didn't write down every little thing, but we went over a lot. We've talked about it a million times off the air and stuff like that. So I think most things are pretty much explained pretty easily by science, and especially the photo thing was pretty interesting for a while, to the NVIDIA stuff we watched a while back, and then Mythbusters kind of recreated that as well. It was really, really eye-opening. So most of that's been explained.
And I do want to say, Joe Rogan had a guy on maybe a week or two ago who was talking about some Bob Lazar type things. Yeah. We might ought to revisit that.
Yeah, that's true, because we still got a lot of comments on the old Bob Lazar stuff.
Because it was like a 2-hour podcast. I haven't listened to it all, but I know he does talk about Lazar in there.
They do. He was the one that he didn't, like, he believes in aliens and all that stuff, but he don't believe Lazar like me. That's me personally.
Yeah, I do believe Lazar. So that would be fun to revisit that again. Yeah.
Yeah. There's still plenty of comments on the Bob Lazar. So, and that was the second one we did on Lazar. We revisited that. Once, but it's still such a huge thing, especially with the Pentagon releasing all these old tapes and stuff. Anyway, so we'll leave it there.
Oh,
we got a special announcement by T-Rex over here. I'm sorry. It's just so funny how you said it. I'm sorry. He had a T-Rex hit with a tin can and find out the driver's actually cracked all the way around the hosel.
I was like, why do my drive sound different than yours?
It sounded like a 22 going off. Like a little 22.
And you hit with it, was like, this is why.
Damn.
It is a tin can.
Right. Sorry, you were going to say.
But no, I felt like there was something that we were touching on right when it went off, but no, I think we covered everything we wanted to cover, and I look forward to the comments, and maybe we will have to revisit it.
Yeah, and by the way, watching on the new channel, the new podcast channel, I'll keep moving 2 or 3 a day, or if I can. I just got back on the book stuff again, so got the edit back, so I'll keep moving the old episodes over. So we got the playlist where there's new episodes, and you got the legacy episodes coming in. So I'm moving as I move one over. I'm private in it, making it private on the other channel. As we get all the rest. So we got like 46 more to move over to the new channel.
Awesome.
Legacy episodes. So that'll happen in next couple weeks or whatever. So anyway, anything else? We good?
I think we're good.
All right, we'll let it fade to black.